Bitcoin getting crushed again. It is now off 16% since hitting all-time highs earlier this month.
But the bank also pointed to tens of billions of pounds in extra savings by households who have not been able to spend, but at some point could be unleashed. Another much-needed shot in the arm.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of Focus on Finance. In today's episode, we cover the topic managing personal finances, why it is important to manage personal finances, the challenges people may face, and some principles that we all should follow. Joining me in the studio once again, I have Niazi Hoolash, an accountant by profession, and Shameem Jamal Ahmad, a missionary based in Mauritius. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So Niazi, why is it important to manage personal finances?
I think it's important to manage personal finances because, first of all, money that people earn, be it through their jobs or be it through business, is a finite resource. And the fact that the resource is finite, it means we need to apply our effort, our thinking, to how we manage it so that it is sufficient. And if we look today, generally, and that's in the news, people are in debt. Household debt is at an all-time high. The Fed recently published in August 2021 that the household debt had reached an all-time high of 15 trillion US dollars. The phenomenon of credit card debt is also rife across the world. So this is why it is important, in my view, for people to manage their finances well, because simply put, if they do not do so, they will find themselves in debt. And associated with that debt comes all sorts of problems around poverty, around mental health issues. So many people are committing suicides today because of financial stresses. And although we are getting out of the COVID situation globally, I think the recovery is not as fast as everyone would have predicted. And it is important, therefore, that people are conscious on how they spend their money.
Perhaps just expand on that when you say household debt. What does that mean?
Well, what this means is that, let's say we take the example of a family, right? So the typical family, let's say a family of 5 persons, maybe father and mother are working, and the 3 kids are in school and college. So basically, let's say someone earns $5,000 a month, right? And however, while they're earning $5,000 a month, you might find that they have a mortgage on their house. They might be using credit cards to purchase certain things. And typically when you're using credit card to purchase certain things, you are essentially spending money which you don't have yet. Mm-hmm. And so therefore household debt is the sum total. So in that house, the amount of money owed on the mortgage, the amount of money owed on the credit card, and if there's any leasing that they've taken to buy a car or something like that, that would be the household debt.
So it contrasts against companies' debt and government debt.
Absolutely.
So you were saying the Federal Reserve in the United States said 15 trillion US dollars. Yes. That's 1,000 million. That's a lot of money.
It's a huge amount of money. And when we talk of household debt, it is important to differentiate between country debt. When we talk about countries being in debt, let's say a country X like Greece went into trouble because its sovereign debt was huge, basically. That is an aspect of things. And you can say that if you take the country debt and you divide by the number of people in the country, you can say, all right, there's an X amount of debt per capita. But this doesn't directly and immediately affect the people. This might affect the exchange rate of the country. But when we're talking of household debt, this is actual real money that people owe to others, and often it is financial institutions. So this is what we talk, why it's important to address it.
So Shameem Sahib, the world is drowning in debt. Maybe this is a rich world problem, but from the Islamic perspective, what does Islam teach us about managing finances?
Well, Islam being a complete code of conduct for believers, for the Muslims, Islam has given very clear instructions and guidelines on how we should go about spending money. And first of all, as a general principle, Islam teaches a moderate approach in everything in life. The Muslims have been described as ummatan wasata, the people who adopt the middle way, in their life, in their decisions. So keeping that in mind, concerning spending money, the Holy Quran teaches us, I'm reading from the chapter 17 of the Holy Quran, that, and keep not thy hand chained to thy neck, that is, keep not your hand chained to your own neck in stinginess that you don't want to spend, nor extend it in extravagance to the full, or you will end up, condemned, and you will end up ineffectual. The Holy Quran says, yes, money is there to be spent, but you should spend it wisely. You should not be, someone who doesn't want to spend, someone who is stingy. But on the other hand, you should not spend something which is not within your means. In another place, the Holy Quran speaks very specifically about that you should not spend your money in a way that it will ultimately lead you to your own destruction and loss. And this is what Niazi Sahib has been talking about. People are crumbling down under debts because actually they're spending money that they're spending on things that they cannot afford. So the Holy Quran very clearly says that وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, yes, spend in the way of Allah. Here when we say in the way of Allah, it covers even domestic expenses, because in a way to spend on your family is part of worship. So spend in the way of Allah, but cast not yourselves into ruin with your own hands. Like, spend wisely and know how to spend, and you have to exercise control, and you have to know whether you can afford whatever you're trying to buy or whatever you want to acquire for yourself or for your family. So you should spend according to your means. And another verse, there are so many verses, quite surprisingly, when I started to look around, there are so many verses on the different principles on how should we spend money, actually. For example, the problem of debt is literally because people not knowing how much they should spend, how much can they really afford to spend. And the Holy Quran speaking about household debts, speaking about, someone spending on his family, the Holy Quran says, but provide for them, that is, provide for your family, addressing the man who is the breadwinner of the house, but provide for them, yes. وَعَلَى الْمُوسِعِ قَدَرُهُ وَعَلَى الْمُقْتِرِ قَدَرُهُ, the rich man according to his means, and the poor man according to his means. So we should live according to our means.
So some very clear principles. Do you agree with these? Are there more principles we should follow?
Well, obviously, okay, I have to agree with it. But being a Muslim aside, being an Ahmadi Muslim aside, it is just plain logic. Mm-hmm. And you look at the number of programs today across the world, of keynote speakers, of trainings that is provided to people, whether as part of citizen outreach programs across the world, or as part of companies educating their employees how to manage their personal finances. And as a matter of fact, just go and look at university courses. Just look at even high school pre-university courses. Very few courses teach you how to manage your money. And now, why is it like that? Could be that's a subject of another debate. But the fact of the matter is, today the focus is very much on educating people. And there are opposing forces. On the one hand, we've got the consumer society, the people in trade, in fast-moving consumer goods, etc. Now they're in the business of lifestyle. So, for instance, we take the example of, there used to be a time when owning maybe a nice watch was to be able to have accurate time. Today, they've repackaged it, that owning a nice watch, okay, could be like a status symbol. And the same watch, which was costing maybe $2,000, $3,000, might be costing $10,000, $15,000 today because of branding. Mm-hmm. And that is a hallmark of the consumer society, where there's advertisement day in, day out on social media, etc. We got the phenomenon of influencers who are portraying a lifestyle that when the common man, or woman for that matter, is looking at that, it makes them dream. And what they do not see is probably the effort that these different people have put in before being able to afford a certain lifestyle. They try to emulate because for them, okay, instead of making the effort to be successful, financially speaking, they just live the lifestyle of the successful, and in so doing, they actually impoverish themselves. And it comes to my mind, Warren Buffett, who is the well-known investor, he is known for giving one simple advice. Do not save after you've spent. You save first, and from what is left, then you spend for your needs. And obviously, he makes a differentiation between needs and wants. Do you truly need to buy this branded pair of shoes, or is a simple pair of shoes good enough, etc.? And if we extend that to many aspects of life, if we have an introspection of ourselves, I'm sure anyone having a look can find areas where they can control their finances better and put their money to better use, and often put their money to uses which can generate income from them, as opposed to just spending and consuming it away.
So, to add on that, Shafique, what Shafique said, we are talking about the materialistic society. We are living in a materialistic society today, and one of the main problems is that people think that by acquiring those luxuries and comfort, this is what will give them true satisfaction and peace in life. Actually, we are all in quest of peace. So they think that, well, this is what I need and this is what I want. If I owe this, this car or this pair of shoes, this is what will give me true satisfaction and comfort. Mm-hmm. But this is exactly what Islam's, warns us about, that true satisfaction and peace does not come in acquiring all the comfort of this world. And today the world is beginning to realize, even those who are considered as the wealthiest, those who have achieved so much, the superstars and the stars of Bollywood and Hollywood, when you look at their personal life, when you look at their mental health, when you look at their family life, you see that actually they are not happy. They are among those people who are, taking all kind of pills every day to get some hours of sleep. So Islam actually teaches us that this, materialism and the material comfort of this life, it's very attractive, but it is a never-ending race. The Holy Prophet ﷺ has described that in a very beautiful way. He said that if you give man a valley of gold, he will wish to have a second one. And if you give him a second one, he will wish to have a third one. And nothing can fill his belly, his stomach, except dust, as in when he is buried. So Islam teaches us that the endless pursuit of material comfort and luxuries, which is the real cause of, we've talked about household debts, one of the main cause is that, people seem to think that this is what will give them tranquility and peace in their life, and that's not the case. The Holy Quran and Islam teaches us that we have to come back to the true values and morals that religion teaches us. This is where we will find peace and tranquility.
So, peace and tranquility is coming back to religious values. This is a recurring theme throughout Islam and other religions. But coming back to managing personal finances, so we've heard the common sense points, which are sometimes very uncommon in practice. Live within your means, by needs, not wants. What practical advice or what practical measures people could do? I'm reminded, if I could start with you, Shameem Sahib, there's a concept of qanaat in Islam. I think this is directly relevant to
Speaking of
the solution.
Practical solution. It's very easy to say, okay, I will not be engulfed by this, materialistic pursuit of luxuries and comforts. It's very easy to say, but living in a society like ours, it's difficult with social media and influencers, like Niazi said just mentioned. It's very difficult, especially for the new generation, So the Holy Prophet ﷺ gave us such a short and beautiful advice in this regard. How not to be, engulfed in this, how to keep away from that. The Holy Prophet said in one of the hadith, one of the teaching and one of his saying rather, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that as far as, good manners, good morals, spirituality is concerned, look at those who are above you. Look at those who are better than you. This will, make you strive to improve, self-improvement. And as far as wealth is concerned, look at those who are at a lower level than you. And this will teach you gratefulness. And we tend to do the exact opposite. When it comes to good manners and good behaviors, we tend to look at those who are, maybe involved in things that we don't do. And we think that, okay, we are good to go. But rather we should look at those who are better than us. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to wealth, we should look at those who don't have, who have much, much, much less than what we already have. I've been reading that on the net, that if you have 3 meals daily for a week, you are richer than more than 2/3 of the planet. We're talking about basic food, 3 meals. So this is what we don't do actually. When we are riding, driving a simple car, we tend to look at the one who's driving the latest Mercedes or BMW. We should look at the one who's riding a bicycle. And if we are riding a bicycle, look at the one who's walking. And if we are walking, look at the one who cannot walk. So this is the principle that Islam has taught us, that try to develop qanaat, which is contentment. It is something which takes time. It's difficult to do. Try to be grateful for whatever God has given you. We're not saying that you should not strive to progress. No, we should strive to progress. We should strive to improve the financial condition of our family. That's right. Mm-hmm. But we should not put aside gratefulness. We should always be grateful for what we already have. And this is really the golden principle. If we want to, really save ourselves from this, blind rat race that we see going outside, mm-hmm. then we should develop qanaat. We should develop contentment and be grateful for what we have.
So Islam teaches us this concept of contentment, qanaat. But I think even in secular society and people who teach people about managing finances and so on, they also have this concept of living within your means, being satisfied with what you have, but still having a goal and striving to improve and staying away from debt. I mean, debt should only be reserved for needs rather than wants, as you said before. Anything else, in terms of principles that we can take from what Islam teaches us?
Definitely. In actual fact, if you look at one area of practice which is becoming very popular today, it is the area of psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, where the main theme is psychologists, neuro-linguistic programmers are teaching people about gratefulness. And it amazes me that the concept of gratefulness existed 15 centuries ago, and in a fair amount of detail, which is nothing dissimilar to what people are practicing and teaching others today. Now, coming to personal finances, practical takeaways on how you can manage your personal finance. So basically, it is important, first of all, it is recommended, that if you want to manage your personal finances well, you have to make a budget. Because generally speaking, it is human nature that if you don't measure something, it will be difficult to achieve it. So let's say, take the example of someone earning, let's say, $2,000 a month, right, after taxes, etc. So how do we manage it? First of all, they need to look at what their needs are. Now, in the context of the Jamal, for instance, you have your chanda to pay. So you will take this.
Chanda being the contributions.
Yeah, chanda being the statutory contributions that all Ahmadi Muslims pay. So you would take that out. And then you look at probably your needs, which is maybe your food, electricity, your bills, etc. You plan this. Now, once this is done, maybe there's education for kids, etc. All the needs. And then what is left is not to be necessarily spent on wants. Okay? As a guideline, and that can differ depending on societies and countries you are, people would say that 20% of your income, a maximum of 20%, can be spent on wants, provided that all the needs have been taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So if your needs haven't been taken care of, don't spend on wants. Complete the needs first. And also around 20 to 30% of your income, if you can, 20% is the minimum, has to be put away, invested, whether it's in the form of savings or you're investing in some shares or business that will generate money in return. So that is the way that we recommend people to manage their personal finances. Now today, the other important thing is when you make a budget, make sure that the money that you're going to save, you just put it away and plan your budget on whatever you have here. Keep the money for a rainy day. It can be a good practice to have a different bank account, okay? Or if you are investing into some 401k schemes like those pension schemes, etc., you can put it in there. There are all sorts of schemes available. In a country, for instance, where the currency is not a strong currency, it is always advisable, if you can, to look for those products where the investment is denominated in dollars or euros or pounds, etc., so that you can protect yourself against the general devaluation of your currency against those hard currencies. So I think these are some advice that we can give.
So there's some general principles. Whilst you were explaining that, it struck me that this is something that our elders were doing automatically. It's only a modern problem that people could have credit cards, could spend beyond their means. People used to get a pay packet, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, and many societies, this was given to the lady of the household who would manage the personal finances, and they would allocate it. I know my father-in-law, from many years back, my wife tells me, when he got his pay packet, they had envelopes, and money was put into different envelopes. Some were for savings, some were for food, some were for oil, etc. And this way of managing money worked. And this has instilled this concept of living within your means, and they never bought anything on credit. They always saved their money and bought something by paying cash.
Adding on that, Shafique said, maybe Niazi said could tell us more about it. Nowadays, even the influencers on social media, we have a trend of minimalism, which is becoming very popular. Like even those people are realizing that all those wants that we have, they are not really important. We should focus on the needs. And they tend to, if you see around on social media, they tend to live, a very simple lifestyle. Basically what they need, shelter, food, clothes, and they try to enjoy life differently, enjoy the small moments in life. And maybe gradually the world is coming to realize that we have to go back to the basics, like you say, the small envelopes and those budgets.
Yeah, in fact, I agree, Shameem Sahib. In fact, I know personally of an investment banker, Swiss chap, right? He retired, okay, he made his money, and now he and his wife and his daughter, they've recycled themselves into yoga and teaching people how to lead minimalist lifestyles, right? And they are very active on social media. So I do follow them because you get nice ideas for recipes, vegetarian recipes, which I wouldn't be able to otherwise do well. But at the end of the day, what I find is that they plant their own produce, right, as far as they can. They can't plant all of it, but they plant their own produce in an organic way. They consume little, and they explain to you that there's no need, to consume more, consume what they need, right? They meditate a lot, which, if you compare to Islam, you pray. Tahajjud. So they wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to meditate. It's very similar to doing Tahajjud prayers. And yes, and when you look at their lifestyle, it's very simple, not expensive clothes, etc. And they have the means to do it. But the interesting thing is that they're making a lot of money because they're actually coaching people how to do that. And I think the society is such that at times when you're on society has become so individualistic that you feel that you're your own, at least as a group, which is practicing this lifestyle, and they have sessions to do it together. So with the power of the crowd, it's a bit easier to adopt the lifestyle, and they've seen the market. So I think, well, it is a good thing definitely, but why the people are moving towards it is because they have recognized that there is a problem which is festering, it will explode, and they are positioning themselves from a market perspective to be able to get into a field but they can actually make money from services, and the services is how to live life better and how to.
So I think we're running out of time now. So just to sum up, managing personal finances is important, especially in today's day and age with consumerism and materialism. Islam teaches us many principles. One of the important ones is living within our needs, not going into debt. And we're seeing the world coming back towards these simpler values. We are lucky as Ahmadi Muslims. We already are taught these principles. We need to follow the principles of Tariq Jadid, the sacrifice, financial sacrifice, and sacrificing your time as well, and pursuing good pursuits, not idle pursuits. This keeps you on the straight and narrow. I hope we've managed to shed some light on some of these principles and make people think about how they can manage their personal finances. So it remains for me to thank you, Niazi, Hoolash, Shameem, Jamal, Ahmad, Jazakumullah. And thank you, dear viewer, for watching this episode of Focus on Finance. And we hope to see you in future episodes. Assalamu alaikum.